where there are strong indications that the federal government is actively considering a raft of fiscal measures to mitigate the worsening food crisis in the country, which has pushed the prices of food items beyond the reach of the masses and contain the escalating inflation. A highly placed presidency official confirmed the move to this day last night in a telephone conversation while responding to an inquiry on the report that the federal government had approved duty-free tariffs on some food items. Although he did not provide details on the impending measures, the presidency source, however, disclosed that suspension of taxes and duties on some food items were part of measures aimed at mitigating the fallout of ongoing reform. Well, those are the developments from the food crisis front. Rufai, your take.
So it's a welcome development, and we have constantly muted this idea in the past, and it's not a new idea. I think in the time of Yaradua, when we had the food crisis, the same was done, putting out tariffs on food imports to be able to cushion the effect. And I think also recently, Waziri Adio and his Agora initiative, policy think tank, also muted this idea. And that's something that's constantly in the works. But we're happy the government has listened. But also we have fears. And this is my biggest fear about this idea. Because of the anyhowness in Nigeria, we've built a very strong ecosystem of fraudulent middlemen in the food and power chain in Nigeria. That's my problem. So apart from this, the government now must go after how to clip the wings of this middleman. Because they pretty much dominate everything across the food ecosystem. And that's why you see that you have a rise in price recently of tomatoes, and there was a big crash. So they are the works of a lot of middlemen. And the reason why these middlemen can raise the premium is because we don't have storage facilities. Back in the days, and I have had many times to deal with the national chair of the Silos Owners Association. And it shows to a large extent that government does not even own most of the silos again. I think government must be able to come back and partner with most of the silo owners to be able to get food storage in first, to be able to break the back of the middlemen. Because most of the problem is the fact that the middlemen buy this food and they store and they create artificial scarcity in the market and they put on prices. Also, the long-term solution will be about all year-round farming, which the government is also saying they want to do a lot of mechanization, which is a good one. Also, preventing post-harvest losses by improving storage. Also, improved breeds and variety, although the jury is out on that because some people are talking about the fight against GMO and all of that. But, most importantly, fighting the insecurity and allowing farmers to be able to go back to the farm. But, they must be able to see the back of this middleman. But the funny thing about this middleman is, these are the middlemen that fund politicians during elections. They are not just small men in the country. So there must be a willingness by the government to be able to break the back of the middlemen so that they don't take advantage of this good thing the government has done. But on this, President Tinubu, I say kudos to your government for hearing the cries of the people.
Okay, what is established is that there is food inflation in the country. Now, the food inflation, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, is at 40.6%. It's probably higher in reality in some other parts of the country, in some states of the country, where tomato has become gold, where tatashe is very difficult to get by, and where many households now have to find alternatives to tomato, creating a nutrition crisis for Nigeria with all the implications in terms of health and well-being of the people. Now, before now, the Tinubu government, having recognized the problem, tried to deal with it. It released, it said at the time, 42,000 metric tons of maize and 42,000 metric tons of rice from the National Grains Reserve. It also collaborated at the time with key players within the food chain sector. But a few months down the line, that has not solved the problem. And now the government has now come up with this new policy on the fiscal end of it to say tariffs, taxes, will be removed from imports of food for 150 days. Now, this is very interesting because at the time that attention was drawn to the food crisis in Nigeria, this was very controversial. The government had said at the time that it was not going to allow free food imports because that will affect local production. and that Nigeria's obligation was to encourage local production of food, and that we have the capacity, and that the problem is not availability, but affordability, which was the same argument that we had under the Buhari government. However, the Tinubu administration, in its own wisdom, has now created a 150-day window to bring in food. So, could this be an experiment? Have the details been worked out? We have only heard from the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security and from Mr. Bayo Ononuga. Between the two of them, the implementation plan is not well spelled out. So it is the implementation that will determine what will happen. There was a phrase in the statement made by the two government spokespersons that, look, the consequences or the factors that led to this issue will have to be addressed. What are those factors? Smuggling is part of the problem. Nigeria practically feeds the whole of West Africa, even as far as Central and Eastern Africa, because of smuggling. 2, hoarding, and that is where the middlemen come into the story in any way, because they try to make quick profit to the disadvantage of Nigerians. The third issue, however, is a problem also of insecurity. I've said that. Farmers cannot go to the farm, and that affects food production in Nigeria. What is government going to do about that? That is very important. The other day, Mrs. Tinubu was talking about household initiative or farming, but I made a point yesterday that you need to go beyond that to, in fact, look at the larger picture of hoarding, smuggling, insecurity. Now, the next thing is that the government now, as part of the food reform plan that they have put forward, they are going to import now 250 metric tons of maize, 250 metric tons of wheat. They are also going to import cowpeas. They are also saying they are open to collaboration with stakeholders. They say that they are going to accelerate dry season farming to increase productivity, to encourage mechanization, and that they are also going to do what they call livestock transformation plan. These are the planks of the plan of the plan by the Tinubu administration. But I return to the original point that they will still have to deal with the basic issues that hamper food productivity in Nigeria. And insecurity is at the top of it. Hoarding is at the top of it. Smuggling of our food items is at the top of it. But to the extent that the administration realizes that there is a problem with food. After all, people now say, Ebeng Pawa, they told the president himself. Abdul Karim Idris has done a song saying, well, from Ebilokon, we have moved to Ebilokon. So food is a major problem in Nigeria. There was another artist yesterday that was carrying a banner saying, food no day, the people are hungry. To that extent, government appears to be responsive. But there are more fundamental issues to be dealt with.
Absolutely. A hybrid approach towards tackling the food crisis is a very welcome development. However, there are some concerns that one would raise. Of course, we know that with a population of estimated 200 million, various strategies would have to be employed in order for us to achieve the goal of food security. It is one thing for us to want to stimulate agricultural production, but it will be important to supplement because, again, 200 million is an unprecedented number of people to feed. However, exactly 1 year ago, in July of 2023, the Tinubu administration declared a state of emergency on food security in Nigeria. There was a 12-point rollout plan of interventions that was said to have been set underway, which included the release of fertilizers and grains, intervention with regards to irrigation and all-year-round farming, the creation of a national commodity board for price assessment and maintenance, 500,000 hectares of land activated for farming. 12 points. 1 year later, what's the progress on these 12 points? Where are we with this? Before adding another round of interventions to what we have done already, can we also get some feedback and also get a status report on where the other interventions have gotten us? The other thing that we're not paying close enough attention to is climate change. Remember, in 2022, we lost 675,000 hectares of farmland to floods. What has happened to that farmland? Have those people been assisted? Besides the small farmers, there were also commercial farmers who were affected by that. Have those farmers been supported in order to rehabilitate their lands? And what measures are we taking moving forward? There's another round of flooding that's already been forecast in the coming weeks. What measures are we taking to ensure that climate change is not going to devastate the efforts that we're making in regards to agriculture and food production? So it's a multi-pronged approach. However, I think it's also important for us to review some of the steps that have been taken before adding more things onto the pile of solutions so that there's accountability and so we can know what works and what's not working. Okay, we're going to take another story as a new round of petrol scarcity has struck Lagos State and other parts of the country, leading to extended queues at filling stations and a significant hike in fuel prices, with some outlets selling at an alarming rate of 900 naira per litre. The Federal Capital Territory and surrounding states were also hit by the worst supply crisis in recent times, leading to long queues stretching for kilometers and causing heavy gridlock in the seat of power. In a statement signed by the Chief Corporate Communications Officer of NNPCL, Olufemi Soneye, the national oil company said there had been a disruption of ship-to-ship transfer of petrol between mother vessels and daughter vessels resulting from a recent thunderstorm. The adverse weather condition, Soneye said, caused a disruption in station supply logistics. NNPCL said petrol could not be loaded during rainstorms and lightning because of its flammability and in compliance with the Nigerian Meteorological Agency regulations. Fuel queues resurfacing all across the country. Rufai, do you have a full tank?
No, I don't have a full tank, and I'm in dire straits as regards fuel. So probably in my head, and I'm still calling, if there's any CNG station on the island, probably that might be my saving grace. And it's the mad situation on. Anyway, NNPC will always give a reason for these things. They will always assure you, I can pretty much tell you the script NNPC will read out. Oh, this time it's about a mother ship and a daughter ship and thunder affected them. Sometimes they'll tell you we have enough in our arsenal. We have over 1 billion liters to last you XYZ time. So please do not worry about it. But the scarcity persists. Some marketers are selling for 900. That's the sad reality in the country today. I thought their initial slant, although we have deregulated the system, we've pulled it out, everybody can bring products in. Where is it today? Why are we having constant scarcity of a product we provide? Where there are refineries, they collected over $1 billion to fix Port Harcourt refinery. Where is it today? If we have crude oil under our ground, at least we should be able to have some level of crude oil, like we do conventionally, over 450,000 BPD per day barrels, to send to our refineries to refine locally, to meet our local production. So where is it? Hopefully the Dangote refinery is coming on board soon. But the Dangote refinery, we should not forget, is also buying crude externally because NNPC has not been able to provide a bit of quota in the company NNPC has shares in. So all of this goes back to NNPC being the sole man in this business of energy ecosystem with petrol. This year alone, you want to count how many times we've had these logistical problems? So many times. We just came out of one couple of weeks ago. Now we have another increase. Probably they will now go after some of the marketers and say, oh, reduce the price, go back to the original price. But they're already making a quick buck off Nigerians. Why Nigerians continue to suffer? So like I was saying, please, if you have any clues how I can get CNG on the island, probably I think that will be the saving grace. We're tired a lot of all these excuses. We just want fuel in our tanks. There's so much hardship. Enough. The other day, somebody climbed a mast, wanted to kill himself, which we totally condemn here, which I totally condemn, because that's not the way to go, and it's a crime against our laws. But the person's demand was the fact that this subsidy removal has caused a lot of chaos. There is no food in the land. There is hardship. There is insecurity. Out of school children increasing. All the parameters dire. and don't add fuel or petrol to it. We're suffering already. Let us breathe. Don't suffocate us.
Okay, I'm sure that Nigerians are very familiar with fuel scarcity as part of the realities of their lives, despite the fact that Nigeria is one of the largest crude oil producers in the world, member of OPEC Plus. When the authorities want to, avoid the problem, they tell you, well, we're actually a gas-producing country, and that is why government is talking about CNG and all of that. But the reality of it is that we're used to this fuel scarcity. The only substance that we can take from it is the N900 coming forward to say there is no plan, official plan to increase fuel price. They have made that very clear, in a very clear statement. The next question is, why then is there no fuel at the pump stations? The explanation that they have given is logistics challenges, which is also a very familiar phrase. They say, oh, they have issues with logistics. What are these issues with logistics? Oh, ship-to-ship transfer disruption on the ICs. Why is that so? Because Nigeria is importing fuel. Even when it has refineries in Port Harcourt, in Warri, in Kaduna, that are comatose, that are not working, and that are collecting money from the federal budget, and they are maintained at the taxpayers' expense for producing nothing. Even one of those refineries is said to be technically capable, but that technical readiness has not translated into products, which is why Nigerian Labour Congress is always saying, look, we have to fix the refineries to reduce our reliance on importation. Now, still on importation, we're told that the disruption is also as a result of weather, thunderstorms, lightning, and that PMS being a flammable material, it is not wise, for fuel to be brought in. So that's why we are experiencing these issues. So these are the explanations that they have given in terms of the gap between demand and supply. What is the implication in the gap between demand and supply? Greater hardship for the Nigerian people. You see people spending a whole day queuing up at fuel stations, expecting fuel that they cannot find. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, who are the retailers, they are saying they cannot sell fuel because they cannot get fuel. How can a country that is the sixth largest producer of crude oil in the world not have fuel, PMS, for its own people? That is the question. Then on the other hand, there is the Dangote side of it. Dangote says, well, he's not even getting crude to refine because he has to buy from the international market. Well, crude oil is an international commodity. But the effect is Nigerians just want to have access to PMS. Imagine the effect on productivity. Imagine the cost on health. People carrying jerry can all over the place, all over Nigeria. Now look at the cost at a time when we're talking of high cost of living. Fuel now is between 630 to 720. In some parts of Nigeria, they sell it at 900 naira. And yet we're being told by the experts that even the fuel subsidy, another subsidy has entered. So if there is no subsidy, are we going to be buying fuel at over 1,000 naira per litre? So these are some of the issues. The only redeeming feature here is that NNPCL says that this is going to last for a few days and they will find a solution to it. I hope they have enough funds for more imports because flooding doesn't appear every day. Thunderstorm will not strike every day. There will be low lightning on a daily basis on the ICs. So I hope they've worked all of these initial explanations out and they've made sure that they have enough resources to import more. On the other leg of the spectrum is a complaint about the monopoly of NNPC. The monopoly itself is a big subject. We need not go into that for now.
Right. Dr. Abati, I love that you said you hope they have the funds available. Because just last week, Reuters shared a report that claims that NNPC currently owes between $4 to $5 billion worth of January imports to international traders. So the challenge that was posed by, rather exposed by Reuters, was that Nigeria is currently unable to import the volume of fuel that they would need to because there are debt issues. So when Business Day did their own findings, they found that the number was not $4 to $5 billion as stated by Reuters, but that the number was closer to $6 billion. So the question all boils down to, where's the money going? So the question is the subsidy back or not? How much are we paying? How much are we spending on subsidy? Why is it that we can no longer afford to import fuel into Nigeria, even though we have no business importing it? However, I think there's some questions that need to be answered. There's some revelations that need to be made about this, the allegations made by Reuters and investigation by Business Day that NNPC is in billions of dollars worth of debt to international oil traders.